Ohio. Today is October 20th, 2003, and we're speaking today with Carl Biggs. Mr. Biggs, if you would start for us and tell us about the situation when you joined the service and the year and so forth.
All right. I was inducted into the service and I went down to Fort Thomas, Kentucky on April 22nd, 1942. And that was the saddest day of my life, I'll tell you, because I left my wife and I'd been married for a year and a month. And I had worked previously at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I asked the colonel up there, sir, I like the Air Force. And I was a crane operator and had worked as Zane Armitage's helped build a gravel plant down at Waynesville, and I knew how to operate the equipment and things like that. And he says, if you'd just let me know 2 weeks earlier, I could have kept you right here. But he says, you're already cut and dried to go in the military. And he says, although you've had some experience with the Air Force right here, and for that reason, you'll probably end up in some branch of the Air Force. So I did, and I went down to Fort Thomas, Kentucky, and they sent me down to Georgetown, South Carolina, and I was put in the old 256 out of Texas, which them boys had already been in the service for a year, and a lot of them had already had their year in and got discharged. See, well, the ratings was all taken up. So in order to get someplace in the service, why, you really had to prove yourself, see. So I asked the colonel, I told him what I'd been doing and everything, and I said, now I've had a little bit of experience at climbing because my brother-in-law, he worked over to Wilmington and Ohio, and he was the only one man that they had to take care of the telephone system over there at the time. And he says, well, I'm glad to hear that. And so he put me down as a linesman. Well, anyway, when we got ready to, I was in the service then for 6 months down at Georgetown, South Carolina, and Andrews, South Carolina, 2 places. And I was there 6 weeks. He says, you're being shipped out. So they put us on a train, they took us up to New York, and we sailed out of New York Harbor past Statue of Liberty, and on His Majesty's ship, the Multan, which we soon found out was rat infested, and had stores that had been on there for 4 months, and they didn't have time to resupply because they got there late and the convoy was ready to go out, so we went out and headed north. And we went up by Iceland and into the, we was 12 days going from New York to Gourock, Scotland. And I'll tell you, in the North Irish Sea, the swells are 40 to 60 feet high. And you couldn't go out on the deck because the deck was being washed all the time. And that old Multan, it'd go up on top of one of them swells, and it just quivered. And I told the boys, I says, I don't think this ship's going to hold together because it just moans and cracks and everything, and you get up on top of them swells and all of a sudden you drop down. I mean, you really drop 4 or 5 feet and maybe more at times. And they did let us look out the peepholes and portholes, and you could see those swells. And we didn't have to worry about submarines because they didn't operate in that kind of sea, you see. So we didn't have to worry about the German submarines. And finally, in 12 days, I could see the White Cliffs of Dover. And finally we got to Gourock, Scotland, and we went up in the bay, Gourock, Scotland. And we went as far up in the bay as we could get. And we was there for about a week, and we were supposed to get some more supplies and everything, but we didn't get them. Instead, they said, we're going to send you down to England. They're going down to England. So we unloaded But before we got off, I said to the boys, I said, we got to talk about it. Well, look, I said, look, there's nobody over there in the town. There's nobody on the street or anything. They said, well, they're probably all dead. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, look at your watch. It was 12 o'clock at night, and the sun was still shining. So that time of the year in June, June the 12th, when we got over to Gourock, why, it was midnight, but the sun was still shining up there in northern Scotland, you see. So we went from there down to England, and we was four bases. In 5 months' time, we was in 4 different bases in England. And that's when I first seen military action, because we were in chow line, and all of a sudden, here come a German fighter plane strafing, and 9 men got killed, and that was the first time that I got to see some GIs get killed, and we all scattered right away, of course, and he turned around and started to come back, but by that time there were Spitfires there, and they drove them off. I don't know whether they shot them down or what, but anyway, 9 men, and there was quite a few people there because there was different outfits there, you see. And while we were in Scotland, they had an air base there, and they wanted lights put around and signal corps work done around the outside the base. And those fellows, them Scottish boys, had been working there with their equipment for 4 years, working on that base, trying to get it prepared. And our engineers came in there, in 3 days they had it ready to operate. See, because we had modern equipment, you know, and all that. And so they took care of that. Well, we were in England then, 5 months, and when we got ready to leave, they sent us clear back up to Scotland. We got back on the ship there, and we headed out in the Irish Sea again. Well, we were 16 days going from Scotland, and we met with the convoy coming from the States, the largest convoy ever been at sea. And anyway, they told us, now this ship is equipped to go 18 knots, full speed, and the convoy can't go any faster than the slow ship. So they all have to stay together. The convoy has to stay together.
Excuse me.
And
can I ask for the children that watch this, 18 knots? Can you?
18 knots.
Just like maybe how many miles an hour do you?
Well, I forget. A knot is so many miles an hour, you see. But I think 18 knots was about 30, maybe 25 to 30 miles an hour for
Okay.
18 knots. And anyway, I don't get no ideas, because if any of you decide you don't want to go on this ship and you try to go overboard, if somebody picks you up, okay, otherwise the convoy will not stop to pick up anybody. And two people did do that. They committed suicide, and they just left them. They just left them, and we kept right on going. And we came halfway back to the United States, I think, and picked up a big convoy coming from the States, and we all headed for North Africa. And we were told that we were going to Russia, see, and they gave us winter clothes and to wear, and heavy underwear, and overshoes, and all that kind of stuff. Going to North Africa? Well, what are we going to do in North Africa with all this winter gear, see? So, you know, sure enough, by and by we head up, we went past the Gibraltar, up into the Mediterranean Sea. Well, we was up there on the second day. The captain says, now there's submarines, the Germans are up there with submarines, and everybody has to be prepared to go overboard. And the signal, if I give the signal to go overboard, everybody has to go overboard. Wear your helmet. We had to wear life jackets all the time, night and day, and your canteen on your wet belt. You have to have water and your helmet. And if you abandon ship, that's what you want to take with you. So I just happened to be on the ship. It was going in. I was on the north side of the ship, and out there, just about a half a mile or less, I could see sub chasers throwing out depth charges. See, and a little bit, you could see things blowing up out of the sea. Looked like mattresses and things like that, you know what I mean? And I think they really made a hit on submarine. But we was right there where we could have got torpedoed real good, but we didn't. We was lucky and we made it up to it. So we was with the invasion of North Africa, November the 8th, 1942. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, we was just a little bit east of Oran, North Africa, a place called Arzu Beach. Now, I'm using what I got in my memory, you see what I mean? Anyway, I had been seasick from the time we left Scotland, and I mean seasick. For 12 days I was seasick, and 18 days going from Scotland to North Africa, because we have to come way out in the Atlantic and pick up the convoy to go with the Atlantic. And when they found out we was going into the Mediterranean and we was going to land at North Africa, you ought to have seen the barrage of winter gear and overshoes and everything going overboard from both sides. And the guy said, "Hey, you better stop. You better stop throwing your equipment away. You might need some of it." Well, I did. I was smart. I kept my galoshes. See, my 4-buckle galoshes. I kept them. Anyway, and I kept most of my equipment anyway. I always kept my equipment. So we landed Arzu Beach. At 3 o'clock in the morning, we had to go overside. We had to go climb down rope ladders, and the swell was still pretty high, even in the Mediterranean. It was about 8 feet, but it wasn't rough. It was smooth, you know. But them swells come up, and there was sailors there. They get a hold of you when you got down and touch when the landing craft came up. Well, you could put your feet on, and they grab a hold of you so you wouldn't fall between the landing craft and the ship, you see. And we finally got loaded up, and we headed for the coast. And then I got seasick again. And oh boy, did I get seasick. But I never will forget, I took my helmet, and he had a tub of hard-boiled eggs there. I said, I'm going to get myself some. I filled my helmet, my shell full of hard-boiled eggs. And when we got to the beach, we unloaded on the beach. We got ashore there. And there was a little town there. I can't remember the name of that town. But it was starting to get daylight. It was that time of year yet, when it was starting to get daylight. It took us that long to go from our ship. In the meantime, the battleship was firing at French and German troops up there in the foothills and the Atlas Mountains, where they were lodged. And the battleship was firing over our head. You could see them shells going because they'd be hot and they left a track, you know, and they fired at them all the time we was going to the beach. And when we got to the beach, the colonel said, "Now, we're going through this town now. Don't nobody put a round in your rifle. Don't put a round in your rifle." But I think everybody did anyway. Anyway, you could see people, Arabs especially, they were looking out the windows and watching us, you know, as we went through town. Oh, it was about the size of Waynesville, just a little town there, Arzu Beach, yeah. So when we got through town, we headed outside of town, a couple miles, all on foot, and we got out there, and there was a railroad station out there, and there was a line of French cars out there, 48 cars, flat cars, and there was a shelter there for them to get under. It had these slate roof, and everything over Europe's slate roof, you know what I mean. So we got in there, and he said, "You can rest a while now, but if anything comes over, don't give our position away. If an aircraft or anything comes over, don't give it away. Don't give our position away." So we was there, and it was starting to get, it was pretty well light. And anyway, we had one boy from Wisconsin, Goloski was his name. He was a great big Polish guy, see. And we all had Thompson machine guns, and so he was down at the end, at the last car, and pretty soon, here come a doggone German strafing that building. And I looked up and I could see them tile up overhead. They was just dancing like the devil. And I ducked underneath one of these flat cars and got more protection, you see. But old Gillespie, I could see down on him, man, he stood up with his Tommy gun and he opened fire on that aircraft. And that aircraft turned around and come back. And when he come back, old Gillespie stood up there and he let him have some more. He must have shot at him 30 times like back with that machine gun, you see, Thompson machine gun. Boy, did he get the devil for that. He got court-martialed 30 days to the camp area and no pay for 30 days for disobeying orders, see. Well, that was the main thing, getting unloaded. We were the first troops to participate in an invasion in World War II over in the European theater. We were with them. And I was attached at that time to the 8th Air Force yet. So when we got to North Africa, in a couple of weeks we were transferred to the 12th Air Force. We was part of the 12th Air Force. And we moved from Oran then. We moved from Oran up to a place in the Atlas Mountains called Tellurga. And it was a big flat plateau up there, a big flat plateau. And they was bringing in B-17s and B-24s, and we had to keep all communication in. We had 12 radar units then, and a radar unit was in a trailer, something like house trailers are today that you pull behind your car, you know, all equipped with radar with a screen on top and everything, and different places in the area there. There was 12 of them at that time, and we had to keep them all connected. That was our job, and we could take care of it. Working every day, we took care of it pretty good for about almost 5 months up there at Tellurga. And we didn't have any trouble, but the Germans got to dropping paratroopers behind our lines, see, down there. And at the same time, let me reiterate here, the Battle of Kasserine Pass took place. Well, the Germans had already been fighting the English down there for almost 4 years, see. They were well trained and equipped, and their tank, one of their tanks could knock out our tanks and just turn the gun, and there was no problem at all. And at Kasserine Pass, they knocked out just about every one of our half-tracks, which was a truck-like with tracks on the back, like a Caterpillar, you know, and a 75 millimeter gun on it, and didn't have any other protection. Well, they just knocked them out real quick, and they just really slaughtered. They really knocked the hell out of us, I might say. And so we had to fall back, and we lost some men. That was called the Battle of Kasserine, and we tried to keep communication in the best we could, and we couldn't use radio because we had to keep field wire. We had to use field wire, spiral forward cable, and keep all of our locations connected as well as we could, because we couldn't use radio because the Germans would pick it up and use it because they could speak English as well as we could. And they had the advantage of us over that because most of us, we just knew a few words of German, maybe, you know what I mean, if we was in a German family or something, which did help at times. But anyway, it was 5 months in North Africa, and the North African campaign finally between the British, and we got, when all our equipment came in and everything, which took a while, a couple of weeks till we could get organized real good. And we started attacked on Runel, and our Air Force got to bombing the German supply, coming down through Italy and Sicily too, and they got to bombing them and cut off their supply, and for that reason they got behind, you know what I mean, and we had the advantage over them then. So we came down through Algeria and Constantine there, and Tunisia, especially in Tunisia, At the end of 5 months, we was up in Tunisia, and we moved up in Tunisia, up at Tunis. We moved into Tunis, and the city was, part of the city was where they fought ahead of us while it was burning, and we got up there, it was early in the morning, and nobody knew where everybody was at really, but that's when the Germans surrendered. And when they surrendered, they had 175,000 Germans down there, and they all surrendered. And so that ended the battle. That ended the Battle of North Africa, really, you see. So then the next step, some of the outfit went to Pantelleria Island, which was a little island out here in the Mediterranean, halfway between North Africa and Sicily. The Germans had an air base there, and they had underneath the mountain, even you wouldn't believe it, but they had cut out underneath that mountain there and had aircraft back underneath there, and that was an excellent place for protection, you see. So when we got there, a detachment of boys went there. They broke up our outfit. They broke us up, and they said what we'd have what they call war teams in different places. We'd go on detached service, see, which happened to me many times in my outfit, my boys. But they soon give up. They seen there wasn't no chance for them, the Germans, and they soon give up on Pantelleria. And they only had to be there. We was only there about 3 weeks, really, and they surrendered. So we came back to North Africa then, and when we got back to Bizerti, that's a little town there where they had a staging area, and then we all got together and got ready for this invasion of Sicily, see. So then we went to Sicily. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you, in the meantime, we found out the old mole town that we was on come across the, it got torpedoed in the Mediterranean after we unloaded, and it was going out, but it didn't go down. They ran it up on the beach. They beached it, see, in North Africa. And after I got home, I was home after the war was over. I was home about 2 months, and one day a truck come up out front, and here they had my bee bag, my bee bag with most of my equipment that I left. We had 2 bags, A bag and a B bag. Well, I carried my A bag with me when I could, and there was my B bag. They unloaded right at the house. You know, I had a set of stainless steel knives that I acquired in England when we was in England, butcher knives, you know what I mean, 3 different sizes, and a carton of Bull Durham tobacco, smoking tobacco. That's the only thing that was missing. Now, believe it or not, but that was missing. So we'll get back now. I have to tell you about the old Multan. But I'm telling you, that Multan, rats as big, almost as big as a cat. And you lay down on the floor. We were so crowded. Some of them slept on the table, some of them slept on the floor, and I slept on the floor a lot of times. You'd be laying there, and one of them big rats would run right across you. They just run right over you. And you looked, and they could bear hug a pipe that big around, and they'd bear hug and just right up from one deck to the other, see. And if I had time, a little later on, if you ask me, and I'll tell you about some of the things we had to eat while we was on the Multan coming across. Anyway, now let's see, we're in Sicily. So we came into Gila, Sicily, and we was the invasion of Gila at Sicily. And where I've got this marked this map, that's all the places where we had staging areas. There's X's there. We circumvented this whole island in 1 month time, the island of Sicily. And
do you have any idea the square mileage of Sicily? I don't know. Is it comparable to anything like a state, or do you have any idea of the area?
Well, it was in the middle Mediterranean. It was one of the larger islands controlled by the Italians, really, see. And the Germans were there pretty well, but they weren't, so many of them, instead of coming to Sicily, they went across to Messina, Italy. They went and that made them stronger in Italy, see. So we didn't have so many Germans then. Them did get away, but there's 175,000 of them that surrendered in North Africa. And a lot of them came to this country and worked on farms and things like that. We found out about that later. Anyway, we went clear around this island, and from Paguila we followed usually the railroads. The railroads and the roads ran pretty well parallel with one another. And we went clear over here to a place called Trapani. And over there they had salt fields over there, if you'd like for me to tell you about some of these things here. And there's one mountain right there, the Trapani, there's one mountain there. And we had, our Air Force wanted a radar unit set up on top there because it was high up. But I'm telling you, it had a zigzag. And my team got the job of going up on that mountain and setting up that radar unit and getting it operational and everything. But it was just one lane road, and it just zigzag like that going up on that mountain. And when you got up there, you was up there above sea level pretty well. And the people here, they were pretty friendly and everything, and they didn't give us any problems. Anyway, at different places along here, we came up to Palermo, and we set up this for the Air Force. We had to keep this open. We had to keep all these radar units open for the Air Force, really. And sometimes we had to keep guns, especially artillery pieces like 175 howitzers, and I'll come to that later. We had to keep them gun emplacements all synchronized, especially when we was on Anzio and Tuna Beachhead. We had to keep them synchronized, and one night we had them all synchronized together, and they shot down 12 German bombers. And boy, that really stopped them. That was about clean them out down Italy, you see. And the next night they came down, and we didn't have that kind of luck because they dropped out tinfoil, strips of tinfoil that long, and that tinfoil floated down and it crossed over the open wire lines and everything, and it messed up the communication. And it was, you could be no good at all. And they really bombed us good that night.
So the purpose of synchronizing the guns was so that you could, more of a surprise element?
The synchronized put up the guns would all fire in one area and make a pattern up there, see?
Okay.
And that's why we synchronized them, see? Especially field artillery and anti-aircraft guns.
So it would saturate an area.
That's right, it made it saturated, see? And, but at Palermo, I gotta tell you about this. You know, what's his name? The British general, he went up this side and the Americans went this way, see? And he went up this way. And, what was his name? General, anyway, he was in command of the British forces here, and the Americans went this way. And he told Patton, he says, when you get to Palermo, he says, I'll be there with an honor guard for you. We was here, and they was coming this way. Well, we got there before he did. I can't think of his name right now. But we had a nice honor guard there, and we even had some German prisoners there, some dead ones and some live ones. And all I think I'll tell you, a dead man smells just as bad as a dead horse. And I had that occasion happen to me a lot of times. But when we seen old, what's his name coming with his outfit, which was supposed to be the honor guard, well, you all come to attention and everything. And oh, did he get mad? Oh, he just really stomped around there on the ground. And, you know, Eisenhower kind of chewed Patton out a little bit about that, but he had to laugh about it at the same time. See, it was kind of funny. But those things happen a lot of times. All right. Anyway, we went on across here. We came across then, and around Mount Etna there, we was right here, a little place right there's an X right there. And while we was there, our Lieutenant Canisteri, he was come from an Italian family, and he could speak Italian real well. And he was with the 1st platoon. That's what I was in, the 1st platoon. He says, boys, he says, we've been eating this Army stuff for a while. Would you like to have some steaks? Would we? We'll chip in and help you pay for one. So he did. He went out and he come in with, they look like, over there, they look like water buffaloes. If you ever seen them big black water buffaloes that they have over in Africa, they look the same way, you see. So we bought one. And I think we all chipped in about 10, let's see, at that time we had francs. We had 10 francs apiece, so we got paid the French invasion money. And we all chipped in, and the guy that we bought it off, the farmer there, and I did have some pictures of the whole thing. My pictures got away from me. I sent a whole shoebox full of them home before I left Germany, and they never got here. So the ones I got here is just the ones I was able to salvage. Anyway, we all had steaks for a while. We eat steaks for 3 days. And them guys, them cooks got so tired of cooking steaks, they said, somebody come in and relieve us and cook some more of these steaks. Anyway, the lieutenant told us, the fellow we bought us, now if you'll dress that buffalo, we call it buffalo, if you'll dress that buffalo, I'll give you the head and the skin. And he was glad to do that. So he wanted that head and the skin of that ox. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about that. But anyway, then we all assembled and we went back to Palermo to go to the invasion of Salerno, Italy. Now I'm skipping a lot of things because you say we got an hour.
You have about 30 minutes left.
Okay. Oh boy. Could I have another session with you sometime? Anyway, we went on invasion of Salerno, and we unloaded at Salerno Beach, which was just across from Messina. See, close to Italy. It's over here. The root of Italy comes right down here. And anyway, we unloaded there off of a landing craft, and there's an MP there, and he says, "What kind of outfit's this?" "We're the signal corps, sir." "Signal corps? We don't need no signal corps. We need infantry. The Germans only over there half a mile." And said, "Well, we got first priority, except the medical corps. The medical corps has first priority, and the signal corps did have first priority besides second priority, I should say." So they need us, and we helped set up some more radar units and screens so we could see where enemy tank movements were and everything, see, and report that to the Air Force. And our Air Force had come over there from Sicily here, from them airfields that we'd helped start here in Sicily. They'd come over there and bomb them Germans. And I mean, oh, I'm telling you, I seen our aircraft fly in to Ack so thick that you couldn't even see the aircraft. The sky would be full of puffs of anti-aircraft gun that you couldn't even see the aircraft, and bomb them Germans. And by the way, when we was on Angiona Tuna Beachhead, our own Air Force bombed us sometimes. And we got orders from General Clark, if they come bombing the area, turn your anti-aircraft gun on, shoot them down. We did. We shot one guy down. He come right down in a parachute, one pilot, he come right down in our area where we was at. We had our guns on him, you know, and he said, "You guys not going to shoot me, are you?" "No, but we're going to take you down to the General Clark." He was in a cave, in a railroad cave. And they quit that. They didn't do that very often. Anyway.
And you might want to tell, in case some kids are watching this, why were they called Ack guns?
Ack guns, that's anti-aircraft guns. Usually, that's a 40 millimeter Bofors anti-aircraft gun. It shot 5 shells at a clip, just one right after another, as fast as they could put them in there. And we had them, and then, but the Germans had a good anti-aircraft gun too. Their 88 was a field artillery piece, but it was a good anti-aircraft gun too. In fact, it was the best rifle in World War II of any of the troops, I'll tell you, of any of the armies. They're 88. And I got some pictures here. I'll show you what they done, some damage what they done. So anyway, then we broke out from Salerno and went on, started north up to Naples. And we we was up at Naples, above Naples, at a little place called, anyway, we was stationed there, and we was doing signal corps work all around Naples, and setting up radar units. That's what we done, and kept guns synchronized. And sometimes we had to go under fire, and we was under observation because the Germans be up there in the high ground, you see, and they could see everything we was doing, and you have to lay a smoke screen down a lot of times in order to get things done. And you breathe that stuff, that smoke, and I'm telling you, just about kill you. But they said it wouldn't hurt you, but I never did believe that. But we put a handkerchief around your mouth and everything, you know what I mean, trying to protect ourselves. But they could see what we was doing, and that's the reason why we caught so much artillery fire, you see. Now, once in a while, somebody'd shoot at you. Well, they'd have to make a direct hit on you with a machine gun or mortars, but bigger gunfire, artillery fire, and bombs, that's what's bad. I mean, if you get bombed, and I'd like to get to that, if you get bombed, if you get below ground, which we did, we had dugouts that we lived in at night. If you get below ground, you're pretty safe unless they make a direct hit on you. But if you're within 200 or 300 yards of a bomb, it defoliates the trees and it cut all the limbs off the trees, and you end up with sand in your nose and your eyes and your ears, and although you got your helmet on, your hair will be full of sand and everything, see? And fire, everything is fire. It's just red everywhere. Even if you're below ground and covered up, you'll still see fire, it seems like. And whenever you get bombed, it's the same way every time. And we got bombed a lot of times, especially on Anzio and Tuna Beach Head. Okay, we was up there. So it was in January and 22nd, 1943, we went on the invasion of Anzio and Tuna Beach Head. Well, we're 475 men in my battalion, A and B company, and headquarters company. First platoon, which I was the first man of the first platoon in the unit, and I was a linesman. I had 25 men, and was Lieutenant Canisteri. We were chosen, 25 of us now. That wasn't enough. That was 5 war teams. That's 5 men to each truck, see? And the night we unloaded up there, I think I got one about that. It was we didn't get to unload the first night because of the other things had to go in, but the night we unloaded at Anzio and Tuna Beach Head, our truck pulled up there with landing craft to the dock, and it was unloading, and it was at night, and there was 3 landing crafts side by side there, 3 of us like that, and the air raid warning sounded. And they said, anybody still on the ship, don't leave. The rest of the trucks had gotten off. The men with the construction trucks were the men on the truck, see. And we was the last one on the deck. The top deck was still up there, and we was on the deck that was unloading it. And they said, the air raid alert sounded, and the anti-aircraft gun started, and we got bombed. And I was sitting in the back of the truck then. We got in the back of the truck, and I was sitting in the back, and one of the guys, he said, I want to sit on your lap, Biggs. Okay. And I put my arms around him, and I held him like that, and I could hear him praying. He said he never did pray in his life, but I heard him pray. And we got bombed, and a bomb fell over on this side. One fell in between of one of the ships and ours, and that LST had raised up about 3 feet. I mean, it just like it was going to be lifted out of the water. And a bomb fell on the other side and didn't hit a ship. Luckily it didn't hit one, but just missed that close. But one bomb hit one of them anti-aircraft guns, British anti-aircraft gun, just about as far as from here, about a half a square. As far, further from here to the other end of your building there, I know. Further, just a little further than that. And I was sitting there and I could see out there. And the bomb made a direct hit on that anti-aircraft gun, and everything was full of fire. I mean, and I couldn't hear anything for half a day. My hearing, I couldn't hear anything for half a day. And my eyes was full of sand and bloodshot, and I was just, you know what I mean, and everything was full of fire. But after the raid was over, they said, you guys get off now, get off, and there was still part of the road there, so we could get off. And we went up there about half a mile, and we could find one of our men waiting there to direct us where the rest of the outfit was. But where that gun was at, where that Bofors middle 40 millimeter gun was at, there was a big hole there, just a big bomb hole, half full of water already, and it wasn't a sandbag or nothing left, not a piece of a gun, and 5 men, and the whole, everything, obliterated, you know what I mean? And that hurts. Because, you know, them guys went to their end, British soldiers. And that was one time that it was really rough. That was one time when we got bombed. And then another time while we was on Angiona to the beachhead, there was constant fire there all the time. I was there about a little less than 100 days. And the campaign lasted 125 days before they broke out. And when I went ashore there was one civilian and a mule dead. But you see the civilians there on Angiona to the beachhead, they were collaborating with the Germans and giving them information where we were at and everything. So what we done, we evacuated all of them, put them on a ship and took them back down to Naples, see, and made a concentration camp for them down there. That's where they went to. And there wasn't a civilian there, only just GI, see. But the day that I went ashore, there was one civilian and one mule dead, because he was going to tell the Germans where he was at, and they just shot him. That's the way it was. But when I left there, it was almost 23,000 GIs and Canadians. That's what was there. GIs and Canadians, and the British up on the British flank, which was called Peters Beach. That was the left flank. See, and we had to keep communication up there. And that was the worst part of World War II for me, was Angiona to the beachhead. But then I was in the invasion of southern France, at Saint-Tropez, close to where, what's his name, that little tourist attraction there, you know, at southern France, where a movie star, Queen, married the king over there. You know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. We were close to their place, and when we got to southern France, we had some problems there. But how much time we got left?
We got at least 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. So I got to tell you about one more thing on Angiona to the beachhead. 25 of us was so busy that we had to work day and night, 24 hours a day. And if you slept for a couple of hours, you was doing good. Because we had 13 test points that we had to keep, keep them operational. Open wire, open field wire and everything. And we had field wire and spire 4 cable keep in and everything. And we were so busy that they got us a security section. 7 men that done nothing but patrol our area, you know, to see if everything was okay and nobody come in there and stole things off of us. And they had only been over there 3 days. They were recruits that come from the States. And them guys were scared to death. You could tell, you could just look at their face and you could tell, you know what I mean? Recruits come in, you could tell they weren't seasoned. And you could look at them and tell they were scared. And they said, what are we gonna do for fossils? I said, just look for them, because they're all over the place. All you gotta do is fall down in one. Just jump in and you won't have to go 10 feet and you'll find one, which was true. Anyway, their raid sounded, and it was the daytime. And I told Lieutenant Cannister, I said, then we took 55-gallon drums and cut them off about that high and put water in and put a fire under them and boil them to force our mess kits in, see? I said, sir, we got to put them fires out. We're going to get bombed. He says, I believe you, but we got to wash our mess kits too. Okay. Boy, when the alert sounded, wow, you could hear them peeling off. Them old Messerschmitts that come in, they had a siren on. They turned that siren on and make your blood curdle. You knew you was going to get bombed, that's all. They came in there and they bombed the area, and they missed our exact area, our little wooded area there where we had our dugouts made. They missed it about as far from here to the end of your building. I can see that clock clear down there on the end. It was about that far. And a bomb made a direct hit on a pine tree that you couldn't reach halfway around. Made a direct hit on that tree, and when the whole tree was liberated, and there was no leaves on any other trees around for 200 yards around. It defoliated all the trees and everything. And them security section boys had dug their dugout, and we helped them build it, just about 10, 12 feet away from that tree. So we seen what happened, because that stump off that tree that was still sticking up there about 8, 10 feet high and burnt black. And it was that big around. And we went over there, a bunch of us ran over there right away. And we started looking around, where's the guys at? Well, there was one guy inside, he was dead. He died from the blast. And another guy just about halfway out. And a doctor says, I'm a doctor. He says, let me look at him. And come from another outfit running over there. And he was spotted all over. And he said, he's practically dead. He said, every blood vessel in his body is burst. And he says, he'll be dead, and he'll be dead just in a few minutes, really. Somebody else was missing. The other guys was out, they were out on patrol, and that's what saved them, because they were far enough away, see. And I started back to my outfit there, and I was going along, and the leaves and everything, the debris on the ground was that deep, and I was going along, and I stepped on something. My foot slipped off of it, and I looked down. There was a man's skull. All the skin was going off of him, his eyes was gone, and this is the teeth, you know what I mean? And I need to tell you, I vomited right straight out. I vomited 3 feet. That's the kind of thing that really hurts you. That hurts you, see what I mean? And so anyway, they give us some more guys for security section, see? We was there, like I say, I was there about 100 days, and then we got relieved. The second platoon came up. We only lost one man. He didn't take his Ativan. They had malaria there, and he wouldn't take his Ativan. He didn't think he needed it, and he got malaria. And I mean, he turned just as yellow as that piece of paper over there. He turned that yellow, and I told Lieutenant, I said, Lieutenant Cannister, he's down there in the little tree, and he can't get up off the seat. I said, you better go down there with the medic. We only had a couple of medics with us. Take him back. So they started, he took him back down to, we was 300 miles north of Rome. Took him back down to the staging area where the rest of our outfit was in headquarters, and he died. He died from malaria. And that's the only one out of 25 men that we've lost always on Manzio to the beachhead. But I had to tell you about Anzio and the tuna beachhead. That was the worst thing. When we got to southern France, the Germans had they had secret weapons. They had one called a doodle bug. And I don't know whether I can show you or not. Do it quick. We're about out.
You're fine.
Here's a picture. Here's a picture of that's right out there off the coast is Mediterranean Sea, and there's 3 shells puffing up in the water. They missed the road. There's road runs all along there up to Peters Beach. See, and you look real close, you can see there's poles there, and we had to keep them at wire, that open wire. We had to try to keep that in operation, and it took us night and day. 25 of us working on that line, try to keep that operation, and we got a commendation from the commanding general for doing that. And I have a picture of that right in a sheet out here.
What kind of a weapon was the doodle bug?
The doodle bug was a little caterpillar thing, all about the size of that rack right there. It wasn't quite that, that was laying down on the side, it wouldn't be quite that high, and it was on a caterpillar, and it was radio controlled from a gun emplacement somewhere that the Germans had up here, off just close to the beach, see, and they could control that with a little radio. They'd run it right down there where you was getting off of your LST, your landing craft, and it'd blow up, and they'd just throw shrapnel everywhere, so it'd cut you to pieces. But we found out, and I got a picture of it in here. We found out you take a rifle, one of our rifles with a 30-06 cartridge in it, and shoot into it, it'd make it blow up, and we'd shoot them before they even got down halfway to us, see? So that helped us, you see. That saved a lot of problems. I have some more of that, more of those. You can have one of them if you want them.
Okay.
But those 3 shells there, you see the water kicking up, that come from one gun. That come from a German gun called a Nebelwerfer, and it shot 3 shells at the same time. And they were shooting at us the whole time, trying to knock out that road and our wiring. And if you look real close, you can see ammunition dumps and everything there. See. And it'd take me about a half hour, I know, to go through here. Now there's a German tank that got knocked out. But I wanted to show you that doodle bug especially because that was a dangerous thing. Besides the landmines, and they had, there it is. There's the doodle bug right there, and that is close to the beach, right there. And that got knocked out.
This one here.
That's a little caterpillar-looking deal, and it's very explosive, and it was loaded with high explosives. And when that blew up, boy, that whole thing would be small pieces of metal. See, we out of time.
We've got a few minutes. After you got up that far into Italy, then what happened?
Well, we went up to Civitavecchia, which was almost halfway up to France, southern France, and doing signal corps work, keep the Air Force going. See, we had to keep the Air Force. That was important. And by the way, while we was in Sicily, we seen our Air Force coming over from North Africa, B-17s and B-24s. I seen 1,800 of them in the sky at one time, from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And they went up and bombed Poliski oil fields in Romania. And that's when the war changed. That's when it changed, because we stopped the Germans from their petroleum supply, see. And that's really important. I could give you another session sometime if you'd like. Here's some pictures of Hitler's hideout in Berchtesgaden up in there. You might have seen them. And 2 months after I got home, Life magazine had some big pictures exactly, just like that. How they got a hold of them is more than I know.
Did you actually go up into the house?
Did what?
Did you actually go up into
Oh,
the house?
yeah, I've been inside.
Yeah,
I've been
we've had several people that have been there.
I took pictures that outside this window right here. I took a picture standing inside this part right there, and I took a picture outside that window at the other mountains around there. And I had this another boy and I. He was now here's a picture of the road going up to Peters Beach, and you see that little outfit right there. That's one of Hitler's secret weapons. That was a little aircraft loaded with high explosives, and it was radio controlled by the Germans. And when they got down to where they wanted to fall, why they'd shut the engine off and they'd come down and blow up. And I can tell you right now, that was a dud. It didn't go off. And that would make a hole big enough to put a GI truck into, I'll tell you.
Well, before we close, what is it that you would like other people to know about your experiences in the military or your time?
Well, you know, all the GIs from World War II, they all got enough action, and if you was anywhere within 3 miles of the front, you was bound to get some action of some kind. You didn't have to be an infantryman. In fact, my cousin, and I got some pictures of he and I on Anzio and Tuna Beachhead because I went up to visit with him, and he was in the field artillery, and he says, Carl, we've been firing on Germans and they're going to fire back now. And the lieutenant let me have his Jeep to go up there and find my cousin. In fact, he helped me through the CIA. He helped me find out his location and everything. See, Lieutenant Cannister and I, we was pretty close because he and I was a 2 men and 25 that knew where all the test points were on Anzio and Tuna Beachhead, see. And he says, if we get a couple hours and there's a slack period, I'll let you have my Jeep and you can go up and hunt your cousin. I mean, he pointed just about where he was at, and I went right up there and found him. And it wasn't too far from the front. About a quarter of a mile or more, maybe something like that. And I said, Lieutenant, let me take my rifle on with me, my 1903 Springfield rifle. Let me take my rifle up there, and I want to go up there and take a shot at some of them damn Germans. They've been shooting at me all the time. He says, Carl, I know how you feel, but I can't let you do it. He says, you give me your rifle and I'll give you my Jeep. So you wouldn't, I wanted to do that. I was going to, might have got shot too, you know what I mean. But, anyway. Now here's the gun they used on us. That's a 285 millimeter. It's on a flat car, you see. That's one of the guns they used on us at Anzio and Tuna Beachhead. And that gun would shoot 30 miles. We only had long toms that only shoot 175 millimeter, to only shoot 20 miles. And we had the battleship come in. Now I'll show you right here in this picture. You can barely see the top of the conning, just the conning tower sticking up there. If you look real close, you can see that. That's the conning tower of the battleship.
Kathy? Yeah, okay.
And the battleship come up there every other day and would fire at them Germans with this gun, and they'd have a duel, and they had to lay a smoke screen down with a destroyer and move the battleship because it was coming close to being hit by them shells, see. And you may never see another picture like that. I'll tell you some of these things. I've got. Now here's a little. This is a small picture. Of the Pattons. We was up in Germany. Patton says to his chaplain, that was the head chaplain of the 3rd Army, says, Chaplain, I want you to, we're going to call a 1-hour cease in hostilities for an hour, and I want everybody to pray anyway with their little missal or their prayers, whatever, and I want them to pray for the weather to stop, the rain and the snow. And he did, and that was the prayer. In 2 hours, it all stopped. and the next day we went ahead. You know, and that chaplain got promoted from captain to a major. Now here's a picture of me and Bowman. We was up cleaning cable. That's me on the one side and him on the other. Salvaging spiral form cable, because it was had 2 pair of wire in it, see, and river covered. And that's what we used all the time. And when we were in out, we'd salvage the German, same thing, only it was better than ours. We'd salvage theirs where they left it and use it as much as we used our own. Many times we've done that. And I knew how to run a vulcanizing machine, so I got to help repair all that with a rubber vulcanizing machine, see. This is the original. I made that while we were still in the service, see. Now this is after the war was over. This is a war team. Now this is me. Well, there was 3 of us linemen. Myself, Evans, and Huggins. We all had the same rating, T4 as technician sergeant. There's Coos, Dean, and we had 2 trucks. And we had 5 men in each war team.
And this is you down here.
Mm-hmm, that's me. I showed you that picture of that flying bomb, didn't I?
Yes.
Mhm. Now you may never see one of them again. Now here's another story. We was up in France. We was up in France between Dijon and Auxonne. And it's kind of wooded countryside up there, and a little bit hilly. And I was up on a pole doing repair work, and this fellow right there at the top, that's a German sergeant. He come walking out of the woods, and I was up on a pole, and I thought, well, you know, used to come down. I wasn't armed. And usually if you wasn't
Okay.
armed, they wouldn't shoot you.
That's
see?
it.
Is that the end of the tape?
That's the